you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great, thank you. So, how have you been since we last talked?
I have been very well. Very well indeed.
Excellent, excellent. So, do you remember a little bit about what we talked about last time?
Yes, mostly about the HR certificate and things associated with that.
Absolutely. So, from what I recall about our last session, you told me a little bit about the HR certificate and the different steps that are involved in that, from getting your degree, working certain hours, and then the knowledge test. And what sort of came out of that discussion, it sounded like the knowledge test was really the point that you had to do some work on. And that in talking about that, the knowledge test was causing you a little bit of anxiety and concern in regards to preparation for it. Do you feel that that would have been an accurate representation of what we talked about?
That is an accurate representation, yes.
Fantastic. So, has anything changed regarding that test or any plans to take it?
Not particularly. Not much has changed. I've done pretty much nothing to prepare for it yet. So.
Okay, absolutely. Has there been any change in regard to the deadline or the time that you're going to be taking that test?
There's no real deadline.
Okay.
I'll take it in November of next year. And, that's about it.
Okay, fantastic. So, we had discussed a little bit about the fact you're feeling, I believe some of the words were a little bit anxious, a little bit worried about preparing for the test. How are you feeling about that test now?
The same, pretty much,
Okay.
anxious, worried.
Can you tell me some more feelings about that?
Like I said, anxious, worried,
Okay.
afraid I will fail and have to do it again because it's expensive.
Okay.
And I don't think work will pay for me to fail a test twice.
Absolutely.
Outside of that, most of the same.
Okay, fantastic. So, based on what I'm hearing from you about the test, I was wondering if you'd be interested in trying a problem-solving model with me today.
Problem solving, I like it.
Okay. So from what I've heard, a lot of your concerns are coming from the lack of preparation for the exam or the needing to prepare from the exam.
Pretty much, yes.
And so what we'd be doing today is working through a problem-solving model to try and create a really good understanding of the problem, understanding of what it is that your concerns are revolving around the exam, and then try to create a plan so that going into studying and preparation for the exam, you feel really supported and strong. Have you ever used a problem-solving model like that before?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I can't, or maybe just by accident.
How do you feel about using a model to approach this problem?
It would probably be beneficial.
Okay. All right.
I would like to do that.
Excellent. So the first stage of the problem solving is actually to really look at defining the problem.
Okay, let's define it.
So I'd really like to explore in depth a lot about this exam, how you're feeling and your thoughts and behaviors about that so that I can get a better understanding of your point of view on the exam.
All right.
So tell me a little bit about your thoughts before you move into the studying process.
My thoughts about how I feel about the study process?
Yeah, so your thoughts just around what you need to do to prepare, your thoughts about the exam itself, even before you started looking at the material.
Well, I have to get the material first, so
Okay.
it's more or less just a lot of getting things gathered, getting the study guides, making sure someone else besides me will pay for it, like work, carving out time to do all the work as well.
And how would your thoughts, or would your thoughts change once you've started the study process?
It's hard to say, really. Having not studied in a while for a test, I'd have to wait and see, I guess.
So we talked a little bit about your feelings right now before the study process. Feeling a little anxious and worried were some of the words you used. Tell me a little bit about how those feelings might change when you started studying if we weren't to put together any plan today.
I'd probably be very underprepared, so I would be feeling terrified, most likely, that I would fail and have to redo the test. That'd probably be the big feeling there.
So that terrified feeling is coming from the thought of failing. Can you tell me a little bit about that terrified feeling?
Well, it would be more embarrassing to fail, so not being prepared would not be a positive thing.
So some of what I'm hearing from you is that you're feeling a little underprepared going into the study process, and that you feel that that feeling would just get worse.
Yep.
Okay. And so what are some of the barriers that are standing in your way to preparing for the exam?
Well, I'm not a very good studier, so I don't really know how to properly study.
Okay.
I don't really, it's very far away, so I don't feel a sense of urgency, which is what I'm used to feeling when I'm preparing for a test. You know, like the night before, I'll prepare for the test, which I probably can't do. I forgot the question, so could you please?
So I was just asking a little bit about some of the barriers that are in the way of approaching that study, that study time.
I like my free time, I guess, so I don't want to sacrifice that. I like to, watch sports and go out with my brother and friends and do stuff like that. So I guess I don't want to sacrifice my free time to study.
Absolutely. So
another barrier.
Absolutely. So if all the barriers were removed, so all the barriers that you've talked about in regards to, not feeling that motivation, or that, sense of urgency, what would you be able to accomplish?
With no barriers?
Mm-hmm. The ideal situation, what would that look like?
Well, I would have a study schedule. I would have the materials. I would be very prepared. And then I would do well. And then I would get the designation and change my business card.
Okay. So what I'm hearing for you is that you're still looking at this test as a step to the goal.
Yes.
But that preparing for this test is a difficult challenge for you.
Yes.
Because you're not feeling that you currently have the skills or motivation to put that plan together, although you see the validity of putting together such a plan. How does that mirror what you said so far?
That's very accurate to what I feel.
Okay. All right. So if we're looking to define the current concerns you have, would it be that the study plan or creating a study sort of a plan of attack would really be what we're looking to accomplish today? How would you feel about that definition?
That would be a good thing to accomplish.
Okay, absolutely. If we were to work on creating a study plan today, would you find that useful in approaching this problem?
Yes, I would.
Okay, absolutely. So, tell me a little bit about what you've worked on in the past. What sort of your go-tos have been for approaching such a problem?
Ordinarily, I would study in a group. When I was in college, that was the best for me. Outside of that, I would just, cram the night before, or just reread the slides and stuff like that, or just not study and hope I listened enough, which I can't do. But mostly the group stuff I did pretty well.
Okay. So the next part of this process is going to be to brainstorm some alternatives. So right now we're not thinking about necessarily what is possible or what is the best plan. We're just trying to think of options for you to use. How would you feel about approaching that aspect today?
I would like to do that.
Absolutely. Okay, so what I'm going to ask you to do is just to start thinking of some ways that you can, or some opportunities available to you, to approach the studying portion for this exam. So things that might assist you in preparing for the exam based on the definition of our problem.
So things I would need to help me study?
Yes.
I would like to have a group of people, probably.
Okay.
That'd be good. A clear defined schedule would be nice to have. That'd be a good thing. That's probably all I really need.
Okay.
And the materials to do it all.
So what I'm hearing you say so far is that a group of people
Mm-hmm.
to study with is helpful for you. Actually getting the study material. And was it creating, did you say creating a schedule?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So that's 3 options so far. I just want to ask you that, and to elaborate in regards to that group of people. What would that group of people look like?
Probably people who are also looking to get their designation. People who are in the field as well. That way it's more commonality. It's easier to collaborate with those kind of people rather than people who are just good studiers, but they don't really know the material, so it'd be more difficult.
Okay. So when you say a group of people to study with, your ideal group of people would be people that are currently working through the same material, that are taking the exam around the same time. Would that be correct based on what you've said?
That is correct.
Perfect. And when you talk about the study materials, can you elaborate a little bit more about what would be helpful about the study materials?
Well, I don't really know what to study. So aside from the behavioral aspect of the test, I don't know what it has. So it'd be nice to have some guides and some pre-tests just to gauge my knowledge and see where I am, so I know what to get better at, and I know what I'm good at.
Fantastic. So I'm hearing you say that it's really more content driven.
Yes.
So you need to know the content to focus on.
Yes.
Okay. Is there anything you would need from an organizational standpoint? You talked a lot about how motivation was a factor in your study plans before. Tell me what effect the organization would have on studying for this exam.
Make my job?
Not your organization as a company, but more creating organization in actually
Organization.
approaching the study materials.
Right. That would be a very important thing, considering it would help me understand what I need to know on a certain day and time. I would be able to focus on specific things rather than just kind of reading generally in a broad sense of the word. So I'd have more direction.
How do you feel that would affect your motivation?
It would probably help a little bit because then I would get better at one thing at a time. And it'd be more, I guess, more measurable than incrementally getting better at everything, which is harder to see progress.
So, to recap the options so far, this brainstorm session, it sounds like working with a group that is also taking the exam is a great option for you, is
Yes.
one. The second option would be getting the actual content of the test and taking a look at what you feel confident and what you don't, and approaching it that way.
Yes.
We also talked a little bit just now about the organization, and kind of laying it out, like you said, in a bit more of a stepwise progression.
Yes.
What would have been a better way to say that for you?
Who says it? Me says it?
So when I